I want to express that when we're speaking here about initiation, we are not referencing people on a Friday night going to some planned ritual where they were a good boy and they remembered their Masonic lines.
Right.
And they took the pledge 10,000 times, and then they go and they have a party where they all sit around in robes around a candle and read funny stuff. That is a fake initiation. That is a metaphorical initiation of people doing plays. They're doing they're doing dramas to try to understand things that are really deep concepts. When a theosophist speaks of initiation, what they're specifically talking about is entering a doorway of the soul into one of the 5 evolutionary phases of the spirit between incarnations. So when we say initiation, what we mean is your soul is evolving into a higher form through these 5 stages,
and more rapidly than it would.
Yes,
gotcha.
The time between the inception of a soul being manifested here in the physical realm and taking the first initiation, so to speak, which according to this, written in the 1970s, there's only like 1 million people in the world who supposedly have even taken the real first initiation. I think it's probably a lot more now in this day and age.
Sure.
But not most. But anyway, so the time between the soul being manifested here initially, millions of years ago, and taking the first initiation is hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. And then the span between the first initiation and the second initiation, they claim is maybe like another 15 lifetimes. And then the third and the fourth initiations can rapidly be taken in 1 lifetime. And then the 5th initiation, according to theosophy, is when you become like Christ, Buddha,
like enlightened,
like not just enlightened, but like
rainbow body.
Not just rainbow body. That's 4th. I'm saying a planetary logos that is recognized through the aeons as a name that people strive to be. That's the 5th initiation. Like Christ, Krishna, Zoroaster, all these legendary names that we've been talking about. They've supposedly taken the 5th initiation.
Whoa.
The 4th is, becoming a master.
Okay. Damn.
So the first initiation, so I'm just going to read the excerpt. Each kingdom grows out of the kingdom below it. First is the mineral kingdom, the densest. From that grew the vegetable kingdom. From the vegetable grew the animal kingdom. From the animal kingdom has grown the human kingdom. We owe our body to the animal kingdom. Out of the human kingdom has been growing another kingdom which we do not recognize unless we are esotericists, which is the spiritual kingdom made up of the masters and the initiates. The spiritual kingdom, or kingdom of souls, is the kingdom immediately above the human kingdom. You enter it through the human kingdom. As you evolve up to the point where the soul really begins to demonstrate itself through its reflection. Who said that? Socrates, know thyself? Begins to demonstrate itself through its self-reflection. The man or the woman on the physical plane, you enter the spiritual kingdom through the doorway of initiation. There are 5 doors through which you pass to become a master. Eventually, every single soul will become perfect in that same way through incarnations. The first step is the birth of the Christ principle. The whole process is reenacted dramatically in the gospel story, the life of Jesus, symbolizing this path of initiation. Of course, it is much older than Christianity. It is almost as old as humanity itself, and it has been presented to humanity over and over again in different ways. Throughout different myths in the past. In the gospel story, the birth of Jesus at Bethlehem is the symbol for the first initiation, which is called the birth at Bethlehem. The birth of the Christ in the cave of the heart, or known as the birth of the indwelling Christ. That takes the man or woman into the spiritual hierarchy for the first time and demonstrates control over the physical body. The second initiation is called the baptism and is symbolized by the baptism of Jesus at the Jordan River by John the Baptist. This demonstrates control over the emotional astral vehicle. The third initiation is called the transfiguration and is symbolized by the transfiguration of Jesus on the Mount. For the initiate, this is the culmination of the lower process that integrates the 3 lower vehicles, the physical, the astral, and the mental. From the master's point of view, this is really the first true initiation because it's the first soul initiation. Then you go to the 4th, which is symbolized by Jesus dying on the cross. It's called the crucifixion. In the East, it is called the Great Renunciation, where everything is renounced, even life itself, if necessary, to demonstrate the lifting of the initiate out of matter into the radiance of the light of spirit. Jesus went through it on the cross to demonstrate it for us physically, to set this great experience of renunciation before the world. This is followed by the resurrection. The resurrection of the body of Jesus on the third day symbolizes the resurrection initiation in which the man, now a master, is freed from the pull of matter forever. The master is in a body which is totally resurrected, a body of light. Every initiation, light body. Every initiation confers on the initiate more and more energy of subatomic particles. By the time he or she is taking the fourth, 3/4 of that body is literally light. They always tell the story of Moses or Jesus, they come down from the mountain and they appear to be light.
Right? Yeah. Blinding.
Moses had to wrap his face, if you read the Old Testament, because apparently he was face to face with light and he was shining light before he went away. The master stands free from the physical planet. Oh, my bad. This is completed at the fifth initiation. The master stands free from the physical planet. He no longer has to incarnate. He is now in a body which is totally transfigured and resurrected in the esoteric sense of the word. Many masters do, in fact, stay on the planet to oversee the evolution of the rest of us, but many go on to higher planets or even out of this system altogether. What are the prerequisites for beginning the initiatory process? That was the question from the interviewer, and the answer is the soul sees that the person is beginning to reflect its qualities on the physical plane, the emotional astral plane, and the mental plane, and is truthfully becoming more altruistic, that its actions are no longer totally governed by his or her personal desires. The personality becomes negative to the soul, meaning the ego. The ego, you begin to learn the truth. Like, the ego is terrible. It limits me from being who I really am.
It's like a prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
You begin to realize this. You begin to shun this and to become more altruistic, which is a fancy word for saying like you're kind, you're compassionate, you're truthful in your actions.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's why, like, on psychedelics, your ego lashes out so hard. It's like, you're going to die. You're going to
have a bad trip.
You're going to have a bad trip. You're going to be trapped like this. It's not good. This isn't good, because it's weak at that point. Your ego is weak.
Yeah.
It's thin.
Or you're like face to face with it, which is the same thing.
Right.
The personality becomes negative to the soul and seeks to carry out soul purpose, even though it might not know it is a soul. Then we see a beneficent person who is rather altruistic, who is really looking for and working towards the betterment of humanity. He will have made some service and put others, evolution, and society as a whole somewhat higher than his or her own self. It takes hundreds of thousands of incarnations to even come to the first initiation. Theosophy is very clear about the fact that you could be not believing in anything, and just through the natural evolutionary cycle, through many lifetimes, get to this point. Because you have to understand karma, reincarnation, through many lifetimes of suffering and coming back here and retaining that soul memory. You know, everyone will reach the state.
Right.
Whatever you believe, it doesn't matter.
It's the whole point.
But having the knowledge of it is like, think about it like this. It's like having the knowledge of it can make the process quicker.
It's like an accelerant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're aware of it. You can understand how it works. But it's going to happen to everybody.
Right. It's like the lessons will be learned one way or another, even if it's subconscious through...
Yep.
It's just like, if you're subconsciously learning these tiny lessons through, in the grand scale, a short lifetime... It's going to take a long time for that soul
Many
to get
lifetimes.
there. Yeah, but if you start digging in and you find the truth, and it's like, oh my God, this is the point. This is what it's all about. Then, you start a momentum that your soul is like on a track.
Right.
And then you can follow that momentum.
Now, it's very clear. These are things that are in the book that I just didn't write down to read. They make it very clear that once you are aware of this knowledge, or as you could say from the Garden of Eden, you've been made aware of the knowledge of good and evil. Like the serpent. Oh, it brings. They're not supposed to eat the fruit, but they ate it. Now you're aware of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, when you're aware that karma is a very real force and reincarnation is truly happening to you, but you choose wrong way of action towards others, the karmic devastation is greater.
Oh, yeah. I mean... That makes sense to me, because I think we actually touched on that on a previous episode. That's like truly one of the most egregious things you can do is like energetically attack someone.
Yeah, you know better.
Right.
So it's going to come back to you. You know, you put your intention to bypass what is right. You know, there's a lot of people who just don't know better.
Bro.
I mean, or like children.
Right.
Like they don't know better.
Make mistakes all the time.
That's exactly what we were talking about before. On a different episode, Alex had brought that up.
Right.
And we were talking about that. It's like the Bible says, like, you murder with your mind. You murder with your intentions.
Yeah, with your words.
Yes.